So before we went for lunch, we were talking about the four orders in nature, right? And we had covered the mineral order, the biological order, and we were talking about the animal order, right? And in the animal order, we had seen that the freedom it develops is the ability to choose conducive environment. So for this freedom, this order has the ability to move around, the ability for movement. And the ability of movement, or for the ability of movement, the animal bodies are connected with the connective tissue, like muscles, and for coordination, they have nervous tissue. So an animal can be identified with that, with the nervous tissue and the muscles. And they move around. And if it is hot, they will go to a colder place. If it's cold, it will go to a hotter place. If it's wet, go to drier place. If it's too dry, they'll go to places with water. So this is the ability in them to choose a conducive environment, which is much more than what is there in the biological order. Okay. So, any questions on this? Any clarification? Next. Then we come to knowledge order. So, as we've been seeing mineral order or biological order and the animal order, there is some sort of a change in their relationship with their environment. Right? This pattern we can see. Mineral order is totally dependent on the environmental conditions. Plant order, the formation activity has shifted to the unit, and it can form units like itself by taking materials from the conducive environment. In animal order, they have the ability to choose a conducive environment. Right? What about the knowledge order? What can they do about the environment? Is there any freedom they have more than the animals? They can manipulate the environment. So they can change their environment. In fact, the language we here uses that they have the ability to develop their own environment. Okay. So, but interestingly, the human environment are of two kinds. One is the environment for the physical body, which is the physical chemical environment or the physical chemical biological environment around them. And the other environment is for the conscious. What is the environment for conscious? So the social environment. So there are two kinds of environments for a human being. One is the physical, chemical, biological environment, which is the environment for the biological body, and the environment for the Jeevan is the social environment, our relationships, our families, our society, right? This is the social environment. So the knowledge order, does it need to develop its physical, chemical, biological environment? Is there any need to do that? So you understand that whatever changes we have brought about have been detrimental. There is no real change required in that, right? But do we need to develop our social environment? Right? So the answer is yes. So we have this ability and we've used it at the wrong place. So we have moved mountains, moved rivers, cut down forests, or done whatever, trying to exhibit this ability, trying to use this ability to develop the environment, and we called it development too, most interestingly. And in the process destroyed the natural balance, or are destroying the natural balance. Whereas the same ability of developing our environment could be used for developing the social environment. And social environment can be developed using what tools? Yes, please. Huh? Yeah, that is our social environment, relationships, communities, society.
I just wanted to confirm the environment for consciousness is the social environment.
Yes. So
And
Jeevan,
Jeevan.
the environment for Jeevan is the social environment.
Okay.
Environment for a biological body is the physical, chemical, biological environment, which is made up by the animal order, uh, biological order, and the mineral order.
Okay. And you mentioned the changes we made were detrimental. So, like, which changes exactly?
The changes we made to the rivers, to the mountains, to the forests, all these changes that we thought we were doing some development have been detrimental. It has disturbed the ecological balance of the areas. Right? So we didn't really need to make the changes there. Where we needed to make changes was the social environment. We have to develop our relationship, we have to develop our communities, we have to develop our society, we have to develop our nations, the whole human race on this planet. Right? So that is the development which was needed. So development is a good thing when it is directed in the right direction. And the right direction is developing the social environment. But we used it in the wrong place. We tried to change the things from which we came. We came because of the natural equilibrium between the three orders. And last few hundred years, we've really tried to change all that. So the next question is, what is the tool available to us in the human domain which can be used for developing the social environment? Education. So education is the tool which we can use for developing the social environment. Whatever we learn, we share, and we slowly build the understanding of the coexistential order in the world, in the existence, and live in alignment with it. So education has a very big role to play. Right? Next. So knowledge order's higher ability is that it can develop its environment. Next. Human being is combination of Jeevan, which is self, conscious unit, and body, the physical, chemical, biological unit. Ecological or physical environment is the environment for the body. Body is nurtured and secured in equilibrium of this ecological environment. Social environment is environment for Jeevan, the conscious unit. Self is nurtured and secured in equilibrium of this social environment. Next. Human being's higher ability of development of its environment is for developing social environment and not for disturbing the ecological environment. Any questions on this? तो नीचे से मत छेड़िएगा, हाँ ऊपर से बोलिए, ऑन कर दीजिए उनके लिए।
You said the physical environment did not have any change. So, if we see from the beginning, from the origination.
Speak closer to the mic, please.
If we see from the very beginning.
Yes.
So, what kind of environment do you perceive? Am I clear?
Yeah. So basically, when the human first time appeared on this planet in the emergence of coexistential evolution, at that time this planet was very full of lots of forests and lots of species of animals, right? And when we started living from that day onwards, we started been cutting the forest, but the forest had the ability to rejuvenate for a certain time. We were too small in numbers. Our tools were such, the damage we did to the forest was very little, and it could regenerate. But slowly, as technology developed, we came to a state. Yeah. ऐसे ही होता है जैसा आज है, और किस्सा. The same human being is defined by his 2-3 things, characteristics, right? The biggest characteristic is power of imagination and power of willful action. Second, it is unit of knowledge order, therefore it starts living in harmony through knowledge. These are the characteristics of a human. So that is what differentiates it from the animals. So please use the mic. Just turn on.
So, without, my question is, without change in the environment, could be a change in the shape of the human being, maybe outer shape, is living, shelter, or ways of production, way of living. Could there be anything possible?
Yes, everything would be possible. What do we mean by change? That's what I was trying to explain earlier also. We have the changes with the developing technology that we made have started affecting the cycles of the natural cycles in the ecological system. That is the change. That is the example I was giving, that initially when we were doing the changes, the natural systems were able to regenerate themselves, right? So at that time the damage did not take place. It is when the technology developed beyond a certain point and we did not care about the natural cycles that we started destroying the natural cycles. That is the damage I am talking about. Cutting a tree for some wood is not a damage, just to ensure that you also take care of a lot more trees. But today it has become very dangerous to cut trees because we have already got much less trees. But if we had been careful since beginning, we could have lived very easily with. Yes. There is another interesting thing which you said, that we were probably initially hunters. I sometimes wonder whether we were hunters initially or not. Gatherers, yes.
It's quite well understood now that we were predominantly gatherers and slowly hunters eventually.
Because you can only become hunter after discovery of fire. Very few animals you can eat raw. Right? Fruits, vegetables, whatever. Forests are rich with food. Okay, let's connect that point. It's a good question. So, like we are saying, for Jeevan or the conscious, social environment needs to be developed. So, what is social environment? So, like you are one conscious entity. You are one Jeevan, right? So, your thoughts, your feelings, this is your consciousness. What affects it? So, people around you, how they behave, right? If they behave irresponsibly, it affects you. If they behave responsibly, that affects you. So, developing would mean that we have, through education, people around us, including us, behaving responsibly. That will give us a healthy state of mind. Right? So, similarly, in the society, right? So, human. Social environment is human.
Thank you. I'm sorry if this was addressed earlier, but what is exactly meant by equilibrium of social environment?
So, equilibrium means a state where all the constituents are doing their full functionality in a coordinated manner and it is stable, harmonious. That is a state of equilibrium. Therefore, it doesn't degrade, it doesn't change, it becomes stable. So, that is the state of equilibrium. Now, coming to social equilibrium. So, humans have certain tendencies, like humans need to do something for their body, like we started initially with work, behavior, intellect, right? Spirituality. So if we become complete in these aspects and interact with each other, then our families, our communities, our society, and our whole global human race then can function together without bumping into each other all the time. That would be social equilibrium, where we do not exploit each other, where we are able to nurture each other, help each other the way the natural design of human beings is supposed to be.
Just so would this equilibrium mean that there is no change in terms of the, let's say if I'm in social equilibrium, would that mean that there is no possibility or no need for the number of relationships that I have, or like for that to change that number, like if I want to have, let's say, more friends or less friends, or
No.
so this idea is not in opposition to change, right? Like change exactly per se.
Yeah. No. So you can have as many friends as you like. You know, you can have as much contact as you like, social contact. That's not the issue. Whatever you have to be responsible in it. You have to ensure justice in it, and the larger context, you have to ensure orderliness in it, or righteous. Your actions are to be decided on basis of righteousness, which we mentioned earlier. And finally, truth. Those three perspectives of comparison that we talked about the other day.
Am I to think that like if the social, like if the people around me are not responsible, or if people in my social environment are not responsible, then it will have a negative impact on my state of mind?
What do you think? Does it?
On me, yes, but there are other people. I'm not sure about them if they are impacted in any way.
Yeah. So all actions have impact on each other. That is the first thing. Whatever behavior we do has an impact. Now, it will be a good impact if it is responsible behavior. It will be a bad impact if it is irresponsible behavior. It is as simple as that. So, first of all, I need to be sure what is good behavior, what is bad behavior. So that I need to first be educated and start fulfilling my responsibilities at my end. So that creates one impact, right? So if I see, suppose there is somebody who is not, or some people around me are not in living responsibly, they are not doing responsible behavior. So then the tool available to us is education. Maybe these people are elderly, we can't change them. Maybe, but we can prepare the next generation to live in responsible manner. So this question is not only about my little journey for few hours or few days or few months or few years. It is about the human journey from one generation to the other, to the other, to the other. How do we fix that?
So, but some people live in a bubble of their own. So they think they're isolated units and other social environment won't impact that. Also, my other question is like, does educating the younger generation involve the lecture method also? And another question is, does all this boil down, or ecology also includes economy, or does this all boil down to the economy also?
Yes, of course. We did talk about the humane economy earlier. Okay? And people who live in bubble, if they want to change, there could be some way for them to, if they are open, maybe I cannot propose to them, maybe somebody else can propose to them, we find ways. But suppose they are not ready to change at all. No problem. After a few years, they'll go away. But we have to wean this such qualities out of the humankind, from our communities, from our societies, from our families. How do we do that? That is the important question. Right? Like, for example, you have children, right? There are some qualities in you and a people of your age or elderly to you, which you want them to have, and there are certain qualities which you don't want them to have, right? So for this, you give them the ability, education, that they are able to discern and choose the right one, right? The economy part is, if we live in harmony with nature and through regulated our consumptions, right? We participate in production by following the natural cycles. So the economy can also work properly. There is no issue. Right now, economy has become overpowering over everything else. Because we have thought that the only purpose in life is to accumulate wealth, which we did on the second day or third day when we talked about materialistic worldview. Why that comes about. Does it answer your questions? Mike.
Like one question, the education for the younger generation, does it involve the lecture method?
Whatever is suitable for you and your child or younger generation around you. The idea is to make them learned and responsible. You find your own methods. Usually it has been seen young children can't be lectured. They need activities. Right? They need poems, they need songs, they need activities. Use them. Humans are so creative. We can definitely be creative in education. It is the direction that we are missing. Skill sets we have many. The direction the education has to take, where we have to go, that needs to be clear. Then use any technique you have. There will be many techniques. I mean, even for us, this sitting for 8 days and talking like this is not very easy. Right? There are more activities, maybe you guys would have a lot more fun. But with activities, this will become, instead of 8 days, about 15 days. As it is, 8 days is so difficult to take out. Right now is an emergency situation, so we are doing some emergency measures. Okay? Anything else? Yeah, Siddharth. Mic, please. पिंक वाला ही दे दीजिए. ये पहुंचेगा. इसको नीचे से मत. हाँ, ठीक है.
I just wanted to ask if Jeevan Vidya has posited a social environment clearly in terms of human to human relationship, not simply humanity and ecology. So really in terms of politics, what is the political structure of say a social environment according to JV?
Yeah, we'll be coming to that as the last section of this thing. Before that, we have to talk about humane conduct. Any other clarification or question or comment? Yes.
So what is the tool for developing the social environment?
Tool for developing the
Social environment, the last point.
education. Like for example, you want your child to learn responsible behavior. So will you not help the child? This help is education. You'll point out, you'll explain, right? All this you do is education. Yes.
So in terms of education, is education a development of the self? So in that sense, is our social environment predicated on each individual's individual education, or is it posited as a community and collective endeavor?
It's both. First, it's self, and once you have evidence for self, then you start sharing. That's how education will happen, no? So education is always on basis of authentication. Right? You can only teach what you know. Right? So, and you can only say help do what you've learned. Right? So if you learned how to operate a machine, you can help somebody else learn that. So that is authentic. Right? If you know something, you can explain it to somebody. You can help them understand. That is authentic. Right now what has happened is most of the education has become like management. You don't know how to do it, but you tell others how to do it. You're not living it, and you're still telling others how to live. Right? So there is lack of authenticity in that. And that is the biggest problem. That's why students are not able to respect the teachers or the educational facilitators. Lack of authenticity. Yes.
So when you say that the child has to be learned and responsible, learned in what way?
Yeah. So what is a learned person like? So learned person is who, in whatever situation they might be, are able to identify what is to be needed to be in harmony with humans and what to be harmony with nature. That's a learned person. And what is responsible? The ability to fulfill that need. That is responsible. Anything else? Anyone?
So has Jeevan Vidya also got into how to educate? You know, because there is so much there's so much chaos in the way popular education is delivered today, and so even we as homeschoolers, unschoolers, we are experimenting.
Yes.
We are just trying, we going by our understanding and our reflections.
Right.
But because I would like to get into that.
Okay. So yes, there is a definite way of, definite things which one needs to keep in mind when you get into the education process. One aspect is child's developmental stages or development stages in learning. Like for example, a child which is less than 5 years age has one type of approach to his people around them. They will imitate mostly, right? After say age of 5 to 10, if they look at you as somebody of authority, they will follow you, right? And slowly they'll come to say around 8, 9, 10 years of age, they will start asking questions about it also, right? So here we say the first 5 years of education, say from age 5 plus, it is more of following the instruction. They'll be more obedient and they do it the first 5 years. So a lot easier to teach them at that age. But say after age of 10 plus, their logical thinking starts out. So for them, some it is around 10, for some it's around 8. So when their logical thinking starts, they start questioning things. They start asking why, how, when, right? So that needs to be satisfied. It can't be brushed aside. And similarly, another 5 years or so or later, now they want to have the authenticity in themselves. They want to grasp everything on their own right. They think of themselves as equals. They don't want to be treated like followers, or they don't want to obey. So the teaching methodologies will change with this. Right? The mistakes we are making right now are, for example, when a child is about 1.5, 2 years, at that age itself, you can see people asking the child, "Beta, what will you eat?" As if that 1.5-year-old child knows what to choose to eat. Right? So we giving them the choice, but they don't have any basis of using that choice. That is the age when you can tell them, "Beta, we will eat this today." Right? And as a story, or while they are eating, we can even tell them why this is good for you, why this is good for us to eat. So that information as a memory, they won't know the meaning of it, start setting. Like we teach them rhymes which have not too much of meaning right now. So we can teach them things like this, which they'll remember, and when they grow up and they ask questions, they can ask, why does this have this nutrition? Why does this thing? This is just one example. Right? So we give lot of freedom at that very young age. Freedom meaning giving them lot of choices they can make. Because we know we can take care of whatever the choices they will make. Whatever they ask for, we can fulfill their wishes. But after a certain age, say in late teenage, we want them to be obedient. You do this, you do that. We take away the choices from them at that age. That is the age when they need freedom. Now we tell them, you will eat this. This is my house. You have to do this. But we've not been able to bring them up in alignment with us, in harmony with us. We don't know their dance. They don't know my dance. So we are all the time stepping on their toes. So understanding the development, learning stages of a child is very important. Then there is, what are the issues which child will look at that time? Like from very young age, child's circle of influence from their viewpoint is very small. It's like family. Then slowly from family to neighborhood. Then when he starts going to the school, then that. So, and on the way they are going. So there are certain things they need to know. Their awareness is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. How do we address that? So there's a whole thing we hold workshops on that also. So if you're interested, you can join that. Get in touch with Sheila ji and you guys can see what can be. Okay. Shall we move ahead? Okay. Next. So we covered 4 orders. We just briefly touched on this, just to give an idea that the whole idea is to be able to see that this whole existence from the fundamental level to the gross level is orderly. There is no randomness in this. It is very well directed. Right? And things are very definite in it. And everything is functioning in coexistence with each other. Like we saw in the diagram how all the 3 orders are being useful and complementary for each other. Right? So that was the general idea to give. And this also gives us a sense what is our role in nature. Right? So let's talk about that a little bit. Now we can talk about what is our role in nature. So we started this talk about humans being observers, right? We can observe. Now that we have talked about that humans are Jeevan and Sharir or body, right? So the conscious part is an association with body or coexistence with body for its journey. And what is the journey? It wants to realize knowledge. What is knowledge? To see what is as it is. That is its journey. But seeing is not complete without the evidence. And evidence is in doing. And we talked about this initially also, that living is in collaboration. Right? So whatever I do impacts others, whatever others do impacts me, and we all witness it, we all observe it. Right? So if something is harmonious, we all can witness it, and something is disharmonious, we all can witness it. Right? So unless until I have the evidence in living, there is no confirmation of my knowledge, of the conscious unit's knowledge. It itself cannot be sure what is right, what is wrong, what is true, what is false. So it needs evidence. So our journeys are basically seeing the reality, living according to that reality. Once we live according to that reality, and if the evidence is there, and people around us also are able to see that you are living in harmony, this fulfills us. This completes our journey. Right? That gives us meaning in life. Even now if you see, when you do something, say with your near and dear ones, amongst them you do something, and they comment on that. If the comment is like, what you've done is right, and it's an honest comment, then it does give you joy. And when it's an honest comment, and they point out this is not correct, then you can be inspired to correct that also. Or in case you're not able to take that comment properly, then it can also lead to sadness in you. Right? So we are a feedback mechanism for each other. Just humans can give the proper feedback to each other. Nobody else. For that we need to be in tune with each other. We can't do this without being in tune with each other. We have to be in resonance of each other. And so the first level of organization of this tuning is in relationships and or family, what we call. This is where we can see, and this is where it takes the maximum effort, because there are so many overlaps there. Right? Once you are able to live with evidence there that you become knowledgeable, you understand the reality, then it's a lot more easier to expand into society, community, national or international level, whatever. But the evidence will come from your family. Like, I can be speaking for 7-8 days in front of you, you'll be here with me for a few days. You are only seeing me for a few hours. But my family there, they see me in the workshop, outside the workshop, when there is pressure on me, when there is not pressure on me, right? So they are the real observers. Their feedback is very important. So it is in the family, which is, what is the family? It is people like me who have the ability to witness or to observe, and they are also on the same journey. And we are co-travelers in this. We have to help each other see the reality. That's what we are for. And when we see the entirety of the whole thing, it's very joyful for us, for our families, for our communities, for our society, for the whole nature. That is the role of humans in nature. We are here to see the splendor of coexistence. The coexistence has produced us to see the splendor that it is. Any comments, any questions, any clarification on that? Because we've been taking this question from very beginning. Okay. Then let's move forward. Let's talk about order in humans. What is this? So now that we've understood this is a journey, how is this journey going to be fulfilled? So this journey is fulfilled by living responsibly. So what does responsible living look like? We need an idea of that also. Right? As a person in relationships, as a person in community, as a person in organizations, institutions, which we need for living together in larger numbers. Right? Why do we need institutions? When we have to do things for larger numbers, we need institutions. Right? If we had to teach only one child or two child, we don't need an institution. But suppose there is a need to teach 200 children, then we'll need an institution. Right? When we need to produce for one person, 2 person, we don't need an institution. But when we need production to be at a larger scale, then we'll need institution. So for social organizations, we need institution. So human living, the responsible human living, we will examine at 3 levels. One is in relationships, 2 in community and society, that is 1 to many, relationship is 1 to 1, and in institution, like nation is an institution, right? Our families are an institution, our communities are an institution, right? Our workspaces are institutions, right? So how do we live responsibly there? Okay. So humane conduct is equal to humanness. Humanness is fulfilling all responsibilities and supporting others on the path of growth for harmony. Rootedness in humanness is a result of spiritual awareness. So first is the qualifier. To live like this, you need spiritual awareness. Before this, it cannot happen. Right? You can attempt at it, you will have some success, but to fully function in this form, you need full spiritual awareness. Okay? Then we have put 3 headings, which is the conduct area. This is like whether it's in relationship, whether it's 1 to many in form of how I behave in the community, and the third is how I behave in the institutions. The basis of responsible conduct in this. And then if it is not there, then what is there? Right? In absence of responsible conduct. Okay? Next. So the first conduct area is relationship, which is one-to-one. So when we are in relationships, values are the basis for responsible conduct. So what are the values? Right? So the most primary value in relationships is justice. Right? Am I being fair to the other or not? Right? Examining that. So if you are just, then you are being responsible. And your relationships will be healthy, will be harmonious. And if you're not just, then you'll be committing mistakes. Absence of justice in a relationship is equal to mistakes. You'll ignore somebody, you'll be not respectful towards somebody, right? Mistrust. All these kind of mistakes will happen if you are not aware of justfulness in your behavior. The basis for responsible conduct in relationships is value, and the most primary value is justice. We'll also open this into many other values, okay? A little later. Second, in the social spheres, in community and working areas, right? When we are interacting with each other, here ethics are the way of responsible conduct, basis of responsible conduct. What is ethics? We'll go into detail also, right? It's basically around three things. One is, how do you earn your money? There's a responsible way of acquiring wealth, and there can be exploitative way of exploiting. So, if you have right ethics, and ethics will determine your character. So ethics determines your character. So if you are ethic or living with full ethics, then you are a person with good character. Otherwise you lack good character. So one of the dimensions of determining your character is how you acquire wealth. How you behave with the wealth, whether you acquire it through your own efforts, or you cheat, or you take other people's, whatever. Right? And in absence of ethics, you become a bad character, and that results in crime. Right? Besides wealth, the other factor there is, how do you behave in the man-woman relationships? In the sense, like we all are there in different environments. There are sometimes men, women, other genders also. So, how is our behavior there? How is our character there in that area? Right? So, do people of other genders feel safe with us or feel insecure with us? What sort of a behavior do we have? So that also determines our characters, and which is a function of our ethics. And third is, are we cruel or are we kind when we are interacting with people? Right? Are we rude or are we kind? Right? We'll talk about in more detail a little later. And the third area is institutions. And institutions run on basis of policy. Okay? And in absence of policy, there will be struggle and war. Because our institutions will not be able to serve the purpose if there is irresponsible policy there or absence of responsible policy there. Okay? So these are the three areas in which our responsible conduct can be evaluated by us and by others. And this is the basis, values, ethics and policy. Okay? This is the basis of responsible conduct. And in absence of these, we'll make mistakes, crimes, and we'll end up here. Exploitation, conflict, war. Okay? So, we all are living at the same time in some relationship. We are interacting in relationships. So, are we aware of our behavior in terms of values? That we need to check. Similarly, at the same time, we are interacting with many people, right? In community, in society, and our reputation goes with us, right? How we acquire wealth, how we behave with people of other genders, how we make them feel safe or unsafe, and thirdly, with other people and animals, are we kind, are we cruel, are we rude, all those things. Right? And in terms of institutions, the policy. When we talk about policy, we'll see that it's just a very one small line definition, but it has very large implication. Right? And in absence of that simple policy, you will always have exploitation and conflicts. Okay. So any clarification till now, please? So this is basically, we are talking about humane conduct, which is the lifestyle of a responsible person. This lifestyle can only be lived if you are spiritually aware. Without spiritual awareness, this is not possible. One thing. I'll also like to talk about conduct. Conduct is something, in Hindi the word is acharan for it. It is something, it's a activity that you repeatedly do. Right? It is not an event-based thing. It is a daily thing, what you do, how you behave. How you behave in relationships daily, how you behave with people generally, and how you behave in the institutions you are in. What direction do you give these institutions with your contributions? Right? With your work in there. So, conduct is something which is what we repeatedly do and what is definite. Like for example, conduct of a tree is definite. Conduct of a cow is definite. Conduct of a snake is definite. Conduct of a dog is definite. It is only humans we do not know when they act like a cow, when like a dog, when like a snake. Therefore, because the conduct is definite, we are able to trust cow, what it can do. We can trust dog, what it can do and not do. And trust a snake, what it can do and not do. But we are not able to trust humans, what they'll do and what not do, or they won't do. Right? So conduct is the basis on which trust is formed. So if it is human conduct, then the trust will form easily. If it is unreliable conduct or inhuman conduct, then there won't be trust, there will be mistrust. So one can easily examine how many people trust you. First of all, your family people, members. Do they trust you or they don't trust you? Right? Your friends, do they trust you or they don't trust you? 2. Your community, does it trust you or does not trust you? Do they consider you reliable or not? Right? Or do they doubt you? Right? If they doubt you, then it is troublesome for us. Right? If they trust you, then it makes things easier for us. How can we generate trust for ourselves in our life? By having a definite conduct. A definite conduct can only be humane conduct. Right? Next. So let's expand on values. In relationships, we talked about values, right? Values is the responsible basis for responsible conduct, right? In relationships. So, in relationship, nyaya, or what we call fairness or justness, is the fundamental value which results in harmony. Okay? So, what is this justness or fairness? We have a definition for it here, a technical definition. So, next. So, nyaya or justness is fulfilling one's responsibility in relationships and working for enabling others to fulfill their relationships. So what you ensure is your part of deal you're fulfilling responsibly. So if you and wife and husband are there, then as a husband, am I fulfilling my part of the responsibilities or not? When I keep this view, awareness within me, then I am doing justice, or I am trying to do justice. And when I'm successful in it, and I fulfill my responsibilities as a husband, then I am doing justice. Otherwise, I am not. And this is not dependent on whether my wife is fulfilling her responsibilities or not. Because when I fulfill my responsibility, it has an impact. And that impact is also fulfilling for me as well as the other. Even in a relationship, one partner is fulfilling the responsibility. The happiness of that part will be felt by both of them. The resultant happiness because of that. If both do it, it will be mutual happiness. Okay? So nyaya is being aware of your own responsibilities and whether you are fulfilling them or not. For this, you need to understand their relationships. That's why those 7 types of relationship, what is the purpose, what is the activities, what is the responsibilities in them, and what are the expectations in them. So this is connected to that there. If we are not aware of what relationships are, then we'll only do guesswork. Okay, maybe this is my responsibility. Oh, maybe this is. Like a husband, maybe I should just get money. Right? A lot of us assume that. A lot of us live like that. But is that the only responsibility of a husband? So, but you can't determine the responsibilities of a husband or a wife before understanding the purpose of that relationship. So we have to understand the purpose, activities, responsibilities, and expectations. Okay, next. So, first of all is who the person is with me. If it is Sheila, then she's my wife. Right? So, she and I are wife and husband. So, identifying the relationship. Right? You can only identify a relationship if you understand relationships. Understanding relationships comes from by knowing the purpose, the activities, the responsibility, and the expectation. In humans, only that can be identified about which you are aware. Like the example I took of walking in the garden, and you cannot identify anything if you are not aware of what herbs there are. Once you become aware, then they all seem to come out like this. You can see each one of them. Otherwise, just green grass. Right? So what we are aware of, we can identify. Awareness comes from understanding. So you need to understand relationships. So what is the part to understand in relationship? That every relationship is meant to complement each other, and therefore it has a purpose, it has some activities, it has some responsibilities, some expectations. Okay. On basis of that understanding, we can identify the relationship. Right? Without understanding relationships, we will use the name like husband and wife, friend, brother, sister, whatever. We use the names, but we don't live it. Next. Then value-based interactions. So this value-based interaction that we are talking about here is, this justness is exemplified through many values of behavior. The 18 values in behavior and 12 more in other spheres. We'll go to them after I've completed the first definition. So in total there are 30 values that we'll talk about. Okay? So value-based interaction. Values like every relationship needs trust and respect. Affection. These three are there needed in each and every relationship. You can't have a relationship if you don't have affection. Right? You can't have a relationship if you don't have respect for each other. If you don't trust each other, then there is no relationship. So, value-based interactions. So, in some relationships, when we talk about those 18 values, certain values are there. In other relationships, certain other values are there. Depending on the kind of dynamics of that relationship, there are values. What are values actually? Values is a name which we are using for certain emotions. If you look at them deeply, every emotion is basically rooted in acceptance or unacceptance. Like if I meet somebody, right, or I remember somebody, immediately a emotion comes into me. If I accept the person, there is a certain kind of emotion. And if I don't accept that person, there is a certain kind of emotion. Okay? So emotions can be positive, negative. But values are those emotions which are rooted in harmony. First of all, this is to know. Values are a certain kind of emotions we are talking. Like respect, or trust, or gratitude, or affection. These are rooted in harmony. How they are rooted, I'll explain when I go to each one of them. So, these are special kind of emotions that we are capable of. But we are only capable of them through awareness. And for awareness, we need to understand them. So, when we talk about gratitude, for example, there is something there to understand first. Once you understand that, then you become aware in it. When you become aware in it, you can live it. Like for example, we did talk about gratitude. Oh no, we didn't talk about gratitude. We have talked about this activity where we talked about contributions from the whole society and humankind when we are eating food. Right? So now that we know that so many people are contributing into it, so we understand that there is a contribution which everybody is making. Right? So there is no person who is not making a contribution. Some people are making contribution directly to me, and mostly people are making contribution to the society from where I am receiving that contribution. Right? So there is nobody useless. So whenever there is a person in front of me, then I know for sure this person is making some contribution. If I identify that contribution, okay, because Beta is doing all this. He's a school teacher, he is a good son, he is doing this responsibility. So all that he is doing responsibly, I can identify. Some he could be doing with me, some he could be doing with his family, some he could be doing in the community, some he could be doing it for his organization where he works. Right? The moment I acknowledge that, and I also connect that this is directly or indirectly benefiting me, benefiting the society, then I have this feeling of thankfulness towards it. Definition of gratitude is acceptance of the contribution or support received from others. Gratitude is acceptance of the contributions or support which you receive from others. That is gratitude. So like this, if you want to be aware of gratitude, you need to understand this part. If you don't understand this part, you can't live this because you're not aware. Similarly for all the values. Similarly for trust, for respect, there is some key point which needs to be understood. So values are those emotions which are rooted in harmony, and their rootedness in harmony is because there is some understanding behind them. Okay. So value-based interactions. We'll be going into details of value once I complete the definition. Next part of this definition is mutual evaluation. When we are in relationship, Vikas bhai and me, I behave with certain responsibility towards him, he behaves with certain responsibility towards me. Now I can't one-sided decide that I have been very responsible for him. He and I together will evaluate my actions, and he and I together will evaluate his behavior. And whatever is common in our evaluation will be joyful to us, and whatever is, wherever there is gap, if we are wise, we will try to fulfill that gap. But if we are not wise, then we'll complain about this to each other. You've not done this, you do not do that. My expectation was this, my expectation was that. So if you have complaints in your relationships, that means there is one sense of responsibility which is lacking, which is that you're not doing a proper mutual evaluation. A proper mutual evaluation is with the consent of both of them, with full freedom they sit down and evaluate their relationship. And whatever gaps there are, both put in efforts to fill those gaps. Okay. Right now we do one-sided evaluations. I did this for you, I did that for you, and you've not done this for me. Right? Whether we say it or whether we don't even say it times and just feel it inside. He never does this for me, or she never does this for me. Right? This determines our attitude towards people. When we start thinking like this, and we are not doing evaluations together, then we fill up with a lot of emotional baggage within us, and which from time to time bursts out. Right? So mutual evaluation is very important. It's a very key point for relationships from time to time. Yes, please.
So how do we do mutual evaluation? I mean, I'm just thinking that, like, she was just kidding around. Let's just sit together today and evaluate each other's relationship. So is it like when I have like grievances that I should do it, or is it like an event that we should fix कि आज हम बैठेंगे और हम resolve करेंगे या जो भी?
So evaluation is not only of grievances. You might be doing a lot of things right together, no? And there could be more scope which you could do, for which if you sat down and talked about, you could probably coordinate better and do. Actually, it's a regular thing. And evaluation is always done in the normal state, not in excited state. That we have to remember always. So during a grievance, we are agitated. At that time, no evaluation can take place. Right? So initially, maybe it will start with some grievance coming up, and then you cooling down. Okay, we need to resolve this. That could be the initial approach. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that. Suppose in a family, if you could sit every week, you could put out 1 hour and talk about what I did, why I did, others tell how they were impacted by that. And everybody's sharing. So lots of it would be okay. There might be some gaps somewhere. But if it's a regular exercise, then we'll be aware of each other's journeys, plus what is going on in their minds, and how they're viewing things, and what is the support they need. But we don't have this mechanism. We live under the same roof and we don't share anything. We are very lonely because we're not talking to each other in a healthy manner, in a proper manner, because we don't have a basis to talk. And this won't happen the first day you sit down to talk. Most likely what happens is, initially when you hear this and you start doing this, you end up in arguments. But that doesn't mean you have to give it up. That means you don't know how to do it. You'll have to learn a way to do it. And you can slowly learn that. And the most important part in this is the ability to listen to the other fully. If we are not able to listen to each other, which is usually indicated by we interrupting the other when they are speaking. In our emotional exchanges, that is what we do. And both of them feel that I didn't get to say my part fully. Right? That's the biggest complaint you take away. So this is not a thing which will happen when there are grievances. This could be a regular thing. It's not too difficult. It seems a bit odd because we have not been doing it. It seems too mechanical. Yeah, we'll sit down and talk about this. But you have to keep reminding yourself, is it needed? Like we are, suppose, 4 people in our family. What is happening in our minds we can't see from outside. Right? We are just doing guesswork. If we talk regularly and we share honestly with each other, then we'll be aware what is happening. But it takes a small effort, but it's an important effort which is needed. Right? So, good communication is very important. Good communication is the basis for mutual evaluation. Right? So suppose you two want to do it, first you have to identify the relationship you are in. That relationship, what is the purpose for it? What are the activities in it? What is the responsibility in it? What are the expectations in it? Are you, now you can say, these are the responsibilities on my part, this much I am able to do. The other person can say, yes, I see you do this much, but this part, it's yet to be fulfilled. Then how can you fulfill that? How can you both get together and fill that part, gap? Similarly for the other person, like that. So all this is done with a very calm mind. And we are not used to that right now. The moment anything happens, our emotional state is not in our control right now. It gets triggered very easily. Depression, anger, right? Things like that. So, mutual evaluation. Next is, if all this goes well, if this is done properly, this is done properly, this is done properly, this is the resultant. Mutual fulfillment in the relationship. That is the state of harmony. This is what we are calling being just in a relationship. Nyaya. So, identifying relationship, value-based interaction, mutual evaluation. If we understand this part, no, even though I'm going to go into details further about what values and this, even if this part we are able to take with us, this is more than sufficient. This brings in a lot of happiness in families. Next. Oh, wait, go back. So, any questions on this, please? Any clarification? Yes. Mike, here on your right. Put it on.
We'll be discussing what are the values.
What all values are there? Okay, we'll be discussing that, like
And,
respect, trust, gratitude, affection, love, right? Care, all those.
So both the parties involved, whether it's a employer-employee relationship or a husband-wife relationship, so both the parties involved have to be clear about what are the values, which are the basis of the mutual evaluation,
Yes.
and also the purpose of the relationship, the activities, responsibilities, and expectations.
Yeah. Yeah. But what I'm saying here is that though both parties have to be involved, it will start with one first. In most cases. In some cases, both can start together. But even if it starts with one, it improves the relationship. It has its own impact. See, your joy will come from the fact whether you are living in responsibility or are you not living with responsibility. That your evaluation of yourself. Our biggest problem, when we decide something in our head and we are not able to do it, for example, or we don't do it correctly. So in our own eyes, when we are not able to achieve something which I want to achieve, that is our problem. That gives us the biggest pain. Or when I think of myself as somewhere and then I realize I'm not like this. Right? So all these are indicators that we have to purify our own personalities first. And self-purification comes from being responsible. So my purification will happen if I am responsible. So commitment for that first. And if you start walking that path, it has its impact in your relationships. The other person can get inspired. You can inform them. They can be affected by your change in your personality. And they also can learn the same thing. But if we start thinking in terms, till the both do it, then only something will happen, then nothing will happen. The focus is not outside. The purification of our personalities is the main thing. We wean out the irresponsible side of us and nurture the responsible part in us. That's the main thing. Okay?
So this is even possible with a child, for example, say 8-year-old or 9-year-old. So we sit down with them for a mutual evaluation, and so again the basis will be values like equality or respect. So whether we are giving the respect to the child or not, treating the child on an equal basis, where there is gratitude both ways, and
See, what I'm saying here is, if you sit down for mutual evaluation with your child. Now, if you have understood your responsibility, then you would have behaved responsibly with the child, say with respect, with affection, with trust, right? But you can only do this if you understand this, right? Suppose you understand this and you behave like that, and the child doesn't understand it right now. So you can help them understand this. This is how you behave respectfully. This is how you behave trustfully. This is how you behave with affection. Because it is authentic coming from you now, because you're living it. Right now the problem is we are not living it and we are trying to teach the child. And we are not sure of it, what it is. So it depends on mood, on our mood, that this is respectful, and some other day our mood is something, this is respectful. This is responsible according to one mood, and this is responsible according to the other mood. I'm happy, yeah, you can play with the mobile phone, no problem. I'm a little worked up, and the child says, can I use the mobile? No, you're not supposed to play with the mobile phone. See, the structure that we want to teach them, we ourselves are not following that structure. That is the problem. When we start living according to the natural structures, it is very easy to point it to others, help them see it. Yes.
Can it be possible that, for example, if I and my partner have a different purpose, like we both have a common purpose, but it can differ or with the other couple, or it is like a common purpose, like we were talking about the universal purpose, or universal purpose?
So any husband-wife relation, like any parent-child relationship, anywhere on this planet or any other planet, what would be the purpose? That is the minimum purpose we are talking. You can add more things to it if you want, but minimum this is going to be there. So this is why we are not using the language of making relationships. We are using language of identifying relationships. It already exists and you have to identify it. You can identify it through your awareness. Yes.
We can, if this is identifying a relationship because it exists, so we have to go back to that sequence, that we can only identify things if we understand what it is first, and then we accept it, and then we're able to identify it, and then correspondingly, respond.
Yes. So to know, knowing, believing, identifying, and responding. So a relationship we want to identify, we have to understand it first. We have to know it first. And then we have to believe that this is the way it is going to be for us, because this is what is needed. And then identify it, the situation. Oh, this is the person, this is the relationship. And then respond accordingly. So everything is rooted in knowledge. So that is why we are a unit of knowledge order. Any clarifications on Nyaya?
So when you say values or expectations or something, like maybe there are universal values or universal expectations, but in most relationships, whether it's friendships or partners or children, anything, it seems like a lot of the time there are differences in expectations and values between the two people.
Yeah.
A friend might think you should call them up so many times or do this much with them, and you feel this much. So usually, like, if there are differences in values, then there'll be a difference in experience of what seems unjust or injustice. Whereas, so how do you,
It's the same issue of that commonness and uniqueness. So our relationships are unique, but that uniqueness is about 1, 2, 3, 4%. 98, 99% it is common. So first we have to take care of the common part. So, like for example, relationships will always have respect. So you can't have different value than respect. You can have some other values in addition to respect. You can't have a relationship without trust. But you can have other values in addition to trust. Right? So respect, trust will be there. So if your relationships has respect and trust and affection, then whatever your uniqueness is, you can also live that. But you can't violate this, the basic framework which is there. So these are minimum set, what we are talking about. The minimum set is the universal set. Yes.
Also, I think the question is not about values here. It's about how to express those values. Discussing respect can be conveyed through folding hands or maybe just paying attention, talking. A lot of us, if the same value can be perceived, received, or given, expressed in multiple ways. So it's about, identifying if I feel respect for my relative, and if for instance that person is not aware of it, I'm constantly expressing it through whatever way I am used to or whatever comes naturally to me. But if I actually do have respect and I feel like that person is not recognizing it, I think then I would be wondering why they're not able to recognize it. How do they perceive respect? In what mannerism, what kind of behavior are they missing out on, and whether that is in line with respect or if it's something else that they're desiring. So actions, that this is at the core, the values at the core, but how do we express it? The action can be very varied, and that is what we can have discussions on, because that's what misunderstandings are, right? You think that some values weren't there when it was often just behaviors that were kind of misfired.
But I think the core values, for example, because we have discussed gratitude, I'll take the example of that again. Now, when we want to interact on basis of gratitude, right? So there is someone in front of me. Now I want to, first I have to see whether I have gratitude for this person or not. So to see this gratitude, I have to see what contribution of this person am I seeing. Have I seen it, or just I'm saying, I'm very grateful to you, I'm very thankful to you. Am I seeing the contribution this person has made? So this is not sweet language. This is not your courtesy only. For courtesy's sake, I am talking in a certain manner and doing. I actually have to feel that first. So I identify, this is the contribution Drishta is making, this is the contribution Jim is making. Then can only I have gratitude for them. Some contribution is to me, some is to the community, some is to the society. If I am able to see all of that, then I can have full gratitude for it. So this is not painting a nice picture in front of the person. It is actually feeling it. And this, when you actually feel, it transfers immediately. Right now, if you are feeling disrespectful for someone, you don't even have to say the word, the other person senses it. Because we are aware in the absence of this. But we are not aware of the presence of this right now, because it is not being practiced. The moment you start practicing it, people start feeling it. We do not know how to practice gratitude. We do not know how to, or not even practice, we do not even know how to feel gratitude. We do not know how to feel trust. We do not know how to feel respect. So there is something which needs to be understood, and something has to be done on that basis. There is a process with it. You have to go through that process to feel that. Right?
So what I also, of course, didn't mean putting on of show for activity.
Yeah.
The confusion and the misfiring usually happens, of course, because of what you're talking about. That since we don't, what does it mean that we don't know how to feel it? It just means that we feel it at times and we don't feel it at times, because it's in our attention. For instance, gratitude. So if we have that in mind, that this person has contributed so much in our lives, then we'll feel that in that moment, as long as we've registered it for that moment. But if we forget it, or if we get distracted, or if something else overpowers that thought or that realization, because it's not a realization actually, if it's not permanent, then it'll seem to evaporate. So that's why it's transient, these values right now. And so to have them permanently, if they were permanent and stable in us, then it would be easily expressed. But now, even when they are there in flickers, they get misfired because the person might get confused.
I like to think of it a slightly different way. For example, if I want to have gratitude towards you, huh? Yeah.
That we know the contribution of them in our life. Also, I can pursue that they have that authority to control us too, that we don't want. We have that gratitude for their contribution in our life, but I don't want them to control me,
Yeah.
like any of them. So
Right.
in that case, what is it fizzle out the
Yeah. So
gratitude feeling, or
do what you have been doing till now. Very simple. What we are talking about is, do you want to live gratitude or not? Yeah. First, let's say, you don't have to change anything else. First, do I want to live with gratitude or not? Right? So if I want to live with gratitude, what do I have to do? I have to see the contribution of the other person. For this, I need to calm down and actually see the contribution they made and feel it. For one person, this exercise is needed one time. You don't forget. You can reevaluate it by whatever extra contributions in rest of the period you might have done. That might need to be added, but what you've already done at that stage of time, that will always be with you. Right? And then you use this gratitude while you're communicating with them. Don't give them any authority over you. I'm not talking about that. Expressing gratitude is not giving anybody any authority over you. They will feel what they have to feel. That's not in your control. Whatever they'll do, you already know how to deal with that. You've already been dealing with it. See, this fear of the other is very big within us because we have suffered because of it. Right? This is a point where we're talking about you raising your awareness levels, you purifying yourself. This will strengthen you. When your strength increases, most of these negative influence stop affecting you. In fact, you are able to find a way through in between them to reach to the other person. You already have a mechanism to deal with them, right? Don't change that. With that, you can also still feel gratitude. Whatever change has to take place will take place on its own. Once you start dealing with gratitude, you'll see something in you will change. And something will change there too. It won't happen in one day. Okay? So that's why the biggest quality we need is the patience in this process. And the biggest amount of patience is needed for ourselves. You can't be, I tried it, it doesn't work. You just heard it. If you try it right now, it will not work. You have to go back to it. There are many iterations. Did you learn counting from 1 to 10 when you were young? All of you must have, right? And how many tries did you learn it? The first time you heard, you learned it, right? Counting from 1 to 10 when you were a child, did you learn in one go or did you take many iterations? So if simple thing like learning a counting from 1 to 10 takes many iterations, this is human behavior, human values. It will take some iterations. Give it time. Don't be in a hurry.
So
Yes.
We have a WhatsApp group of some friends,
Yeah.
and every night before sleeping, we have an activity to do. We practice gratitude. We type down 3 things or 5 things, but at least 3 things that we are grateful for throughout the day, and we mention the reason for being grateful.
Good.
And she mentioned about expressing gratitude towards certain person. So I wanted to share that it is not necessary always to come forward and say those gratitude words to the other person. You just feeling those feelings of gratitude towards that person also helps for starters.
Right. Good point.
Can I add a anecdote?
Sure.
So it's somebody else's, but I'll just share it. So in our school, there is this guideline that for pre-primary children, everything will, all the content that we have to teach will all be delivered in the context of माँ, कि माँ ऐसा
Mother.
करती है, माँ ऐसा, mother. Yes, I think that to everybody.
No, there are some people who don't speak Hindi.
So mother. So even if you're teaching A for apple, you'll say my mother or your mother cuts an apple for you to give in tiffin or for whatever. है ना? So all the letters of the alphabet, all the nouns or everything that they teach, or colors, shapes, everything is taught in that context. And so this has to be done for everything, all the songs, all the activities, games, everything. So one of the teachers was sharing that we ourselves don't know so many things that our mother does. Now we have to teach those children and tell them throughout the day for 3 or 4 hours, everything that we are teaching them is going to be with the context of mother. So like every day, 5 days a week, for so many months, she was talking about everything in the context of mother, and by the end of that year, her attention went towards her mother. It's not as if she was disrespectful to her mother or she didn't know that her mother has done so many things, but it's a realization. You know, when you do it repetitively again and again, and you have to think of more examples also. You can't think, by apple kata, banana, she cut a banana, she cut an apple. No, you will think of other examples also. So as a result of that exercise, her attention went to her own mother, and she was able to feel a deeper gratitude towards her own mother. But then this is her sharing with us that, it took me 1 year of sharing with the other children for her attention to go to her own relationship.
So anything more on Nyaya? Right? Yeah. Mike.
So it's all sounds good, but when we living, it is so difficult to feel gratitude for that person who is living with exploitation or vishwasghat. So how can we feel for gratitude for that person?
Very good question. So, do you drive a bicycle or a motorbike? So, when you were learning, where did you learn? On the highway?
Colony.
In some
Colony's
ground,
road. Yes.
right? Empty roads.
Yes.
So, when you're learning gratitude, you'll start with that open ground or a road of colonies, which is where you're comfortable. You'll practice it there. Once you've practiced, you've got a grasp on it, then you can use it with others. You don't jump into the highway immediately. Right? It's a process. Slowly you'll reach there. If we are idealistic, we'll first want to do it there, the most difficult place. but we don't know how to do it. As a toughest situation, it will never work. So practice it where you can do it, and then slowly, as you start understanding gratitude, you will yourself find the way how to reach out to that person.
But some situations when we are living current, if we talk about my current situation, so if I try for my comfortable zone for practice the gratitude, but I also live with complicated relationships. So in this situation, I am thinking about quit interaction with that person, or lots of relationship is as it is, as I mentioned.
Okay. Then I would examine how much I've understood in this. Maybe something I'm missing. I've not yet got the point. I see, the whole principle is, if it is not helping you in the situation, then there is something lacking in your understanding. Right? So, what is lacking in this understanding? That we'll have to explore. I to always go back to my basics. What could be missing here? I want to be like this. I'm enable. I can always see sometimes like, look, okay, I'm not willing to cross this barrier right now. This is needed to be crossed to interact with this person. Okay, but I'm not ready to. I'm not willing right now. So this is my limitation. I have to work on this right now. Right? Or it could be when this person is here, my emotional stability is not there. When this person talks like this, speaks like this, then I get disturbed. So again I go back to, so I have to work on this. I have to first become stable. Why is it affecting? Right? So till the time I am stable, I cannot go interact with the person who is agitating, who's in somehow because of whom I am getting disturbed. So first I have to get control of myself. So become observer of yourself, what is happening to you when this is happening. When you are with this person, what all is happening? Note it down. Watch it. Witness it. Right? So when you start witnessing it, then you start seeing, okay, this is what is happening. Once you know that for sure this is what is happening, then you will find a way. Okay, this is what I need to do. Suppose it is emotional disturbance. So there must be some past events because of which you are disturbed. So you have to resolve that within you. What is this? Why is it affecting you? Even now. See, we cannot suppress things in our lives. If things are affecting us, we have to go through them. Watch them, address them, have a closure, and then move on. Face the situation. Can't avoid it. There is something, maybe there is something about some incident that you need to talk with them. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that. In my case, there are 2-3 areas where I need to do this. I have not yet been able to bring myself to do it. But I know where I have a slight hint where I have to work. But it's not high in priority right now. That also I am aware of. Yeah, I keep pushing it down. Okay? So, see what you find. Yes.
Following up on what he's saying, I just want to know, where does weighing a relationship is placed in this whole
Weighing a relationship?
As in, like, if the relationship is so important for me, or can I just walk away, or it's not, like, it's causing me more problems than
Yeah. So if suppose you're in a very toxic relationship, might be better to move away for the time being. What's the problem with it? See, this is not idealism. We have to fix the biggest problem right now first. First, you become comfortable. Whatever in your present state you find comfortable, become that. And then start learning. Without being in a comfortable state, you can't learn. When you're agitated, how will you learn? If you're disturbed, how will you learn? Suppose you move away from 4 or 5 relationships. But you still have to live in some relationship. Whichever relationships you live in, practice it there. You can't live alone, no? See, nobody else will decide for you. You have to decide for yourselves. Okay? Shall we move forward? I want to show you the beautiful chart of 30 values. Well, before that, let's show the 7 relationships again. Yeah, this we have seen once, so I won't go into it. But these are some of the indicators what has to be done in these relationships. These can be studied in detail. Okay? Okay, values. Show all of them. Okay. These are the values in behavior. There are 9 realized values. You change language without telling me. And 9 courteous values. Then there are production values. See, this gap is too much, Drishta. This. Manifested values. Or courteous values or whatever. चलेगा वो, but वो ठीक कर दो. उस सेल का पॉइंट्स और छोटा कर दो थोड़ा सा. हाँ, ठीक है. ओके. So there are 4 Jeevan values. This is the ultimate, this is where we want to reach. This is the journey for Jeevan. Jeevan needs these: happiness, peace, contentment, bliss. Right? These are called human values or human qualities, which is resoluteness, courage. This is what I've been calling patience at times. Right? Resoluteness is equivalent to patience. Courage, generosity, kindness, benevolence, and compassion. So, if we live with these qualities, we can achieve this. To live with these qualities, we need to practice these and these. This is in production, usefulness and aesthetics. And in behavior, these are realized values and manifested values. So gratitude corresponds to gentleness. Admiration corresponds to simplicity. Reverence corresponds to devotion. Love corresponds to oneness. Similarly, all of these are corresponding. So, confidence/trust. Okay? Care, guardianship, respect, affection. So for each of the 9 realized values, there are 9 corresponding manifested values in behavior. This is what you understand and this is what you feel inside. And when you live these, this is what gets communicated to the other. This is what is seen by the other. So if you have gratitude, there is gentleness which comes into your behavior, which the other will see. So I won't go into all of the 30 because that will take a couple of days to talk about all of them. I'll just take 2, 3. But these are all studied. So, like we've talked about gratitude, we can talk about, say, trust or confidence, right? Trust is the Hindi word is Vishwas, which we are translating both as trust when it is in a relationship, and Vishwas is confidence when you're looking at it in yourself, right? We could also talk about affection, right? So affection is the simplest. What does it mean? The definition for it is acceptance of a relationship is equal to affection. We have been using one word for quite long. Now I think we should define that also, which is relationship. Right? What is relationship? I think we did say it somewhere, no? In one of the slides. So, relationship is commitment, right? For, what is the language we've used here? Well, I think it was there in one of the slides. Anyway, so it's a commitment for mutual completeness. I'll help you complete yourself, you will help me complete myself. So it is a journey for mutual completeness. Relationship. Relationship is a commitment, a mutual commitment. We are together, right? A relationship is that we are together. We are together for what? For mutual growth, and growth has a culmination point which we are calling completeness. Of which system? For all systems, yes. The mutual completeness. Yes, I understood. I understood you are asking. I am saying this is the definition for all relationships. When we go into 7 types, then something will be added to this part. Right? But commitment for mutual completeness is the main thing. Right? Make it growth and completeness. Mutual growth and completeness. नहीं छोड़ दो उसको. क्या कहना है? हाँ, पर लिखना चाहते हैं उससे कई बार कुछ लोगों का प्रोसेस होता है कि लिखने से उनका रजिस्टर करता है अंदर, तो कुछ लिखते हैं, कुछ सुनते हैं, कुछ और कर रहे होते हैं. Sometime one workshop I saw in which there were all these Sarvodaya people, all Gandhians, and they were doing, this is 93 December, and there were 20 of them, and all 20 were listening to the workshop and were doing the charkha the whole day. And by the end of that, they had a lot of thread, and which all of them donated to the organization. Anyway, so relationship is commitment for mutual growth and completeness. Okay, tomorrow we'll come back. We'll start from here, go into the values. We were talking about affection, so we'll start with affection tomorrow after relationship. Okay, thank you.